From the Kolkata studios of Republic TV, it's time for Arnab Goswami on the debate.
Good evening and welcome, viewers. Success has many fathers and failure has none. So when things were going right and COVID seemed under control, everybody, all politicians, netas, bureaucrats, center and all states took a lot of credit. Now that there is an oxygen emergency, and the situation is beyond alarming, everyone is washing their hands off. And at the risk of being unpopular among India's netas of all parties, let me tell you the harsh truth. These netas are responsible for the oxygen crisis. They better own up. The oxygen crisis is man-made. It is a man-made creation and affliction. And here are a few questions and reasons why. Let's think logically. Question number one. If we produce enough medical oxygen, then why are hospitals all across India running out of O2? Secondly, is it true that the problem is not of production, but of the transport of oxygen? Why are our netas not being honest with us? Thirdly, they say we've done a lot for the people of India. Rubbish. If so, then why do we not have enough cryogenic tanks to transport oxygen even today? What the hell were they doing for the last 1 year? Fourthly, no forward planning. Setting up new oxygen manufacturing plants takes months. We needed those plants to be set up in different parts of the country to reduce interstate interdependencies. Why did the netas not do anything so far? Fact is, they did not plan. They did not forward plan. This is their failure. Fifth, how did both the center and the states not prepare for the eventuality of a second wave in terms of oxygen supply? These netas are responsible for every death today because of lack of oxygen. And please, stop taking credit, netas. Will politicians at the center and the state tell the people of the country the truth? The truth, and only the truth. What will happen, netas, if the daily COVID count goes to 5 lakh plus? Have you left our country prepared? Our survival now depends on our ability to bring the COVID curve down. Why are politicians still not being tough? Do these politicians think that the people of the country will be fooled by this stupid and dramatic, orchestrated and fake blame game between them? They should be ashamed of themselves. What are the facts, viewers? Even tonight, Mr. Rakesh Tikat, so-called farmer, is carrying out iftar parties with thousands at the Delhi border. 30,000 people plan to camp there. No politician stops them. Weddings and parties are going on like nothing has happened. Nobody stops these people. Politicians are too weak to be tough. Well, toughness is not a measure to be used in peacetime. Toughness needs to be shown at times of national crisis and emergency. Politicians want to fool and distract the people of India, and we must put them to account. They have all ALL let us down. And we must tell them that we are fed up of their social media wars. This oxygen crisis must weigh on their conscience. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to participate in my debates tonight. Debate number 1 is on the oxygen crisis. Straightforward solutions now. Debate number 2, this ridiculous, shameful and shameless Tikayat Iftar party. And debate number 3 tonight, if the hockey stick curve is not brought down, what is going to be the impact? All this and more is coming up, and here are the headlines this Thursday evening on the debate tonight. Oxygen crisis in several cities as India records the highest number ever of COVID cases. Prime Minister holds emergency meetings, has now cancelled Friday's Bengal campaign. Courts step in and seek accountability on India's COVID preparedness. The Supreme Court appoints Harish Salve amicus curiae. Hospitals post SOSs on social media. Many make announcement to seek urgent oxygen supply. Time to stay home and not party at Delhi's borders, but nobody's going to stop them. There's national anger over Andolanjiris mocking our fight. And 314,000 cases in India records a global high. How can India turn the COVID curve? Let's debate tonight. There is an oxygen emergency that our country is facing. And if we do not act immediately and act in a way that we have not so far, we could lose many more lives to COVID. Tonight, ground reports from across the nation suggest there is a need for a mammoth joint initiative. Let's accept it. There has been an inescapable failure so far. So we need solutions and we need cooperation. And that is why tonight I want to talk about the oxygen crisis. Understand it and then talk about how we can end it. Let's take a look at this report and then tonight we debate.
सभी पेशेंट्स के रिश्तेदार ध्यान से सुन लें कि हॉस्पिटल के अंदर सिर्फ आधे घंटे की ऑक्सीजन और बची है। आपसे रिक्वेस्ट है कि इस टाइम में अपने पेशेंट्स को दूसरे हॉस्पिटल में शिफ्ट करने का प्रबंध करें या फिर ऑक्सीजन सिलेंडर अगर आपके पास है तो अपने पेशेंट के पास लाकर रख दें।
Hospitals are being forced to make these distress calls.
सभी पेशेंट्स के रिश्तेदार ध्यान से सुन लें कि हॉस्पिटल के अंदर सिर्फ आधे घंटे की ऑक्सीजन और बची है। आपसे रिक्वेस्ट है कि इस टाइम में अपने पेशेंट्स को दूसरे हॉस्पिटल में शिफ्ट करने का प्रबंध करें या फिर ऑक्सीजन सिलेंडर अगर आपके पास है तो अपने पेशेंट के पास लाकर रख दें।
Doctors are breaking down.
You see, we as a doctor, we as a hospital, we are supposed to give life. If we cannot give them oxygen even, what is the situation? When patient comes to, patient will die. Patient will die.
Private hospitals are asking patients to shift out.
सबको हमने नोटिस देकर बोला कि we are short of oxygen. A major vendor is backing out. So अभी we don't know मतलब from where with all this oxygen will come from.
Top hospitals are tweeting about the crisis and the blockade in the supply chain.
With spiraling coronavirus cases all across the country, the dearth of oxygen is one of the main worry of all. And specifically when we talk about the national capital, we have seen the Chief Minister of the Union Territory coming out and saying that national capital is facing a dearth of oxygen.
When the medical fraternity puts out appeal after appeal, nobody can deny there's an oxygen crisis across India. And it is the common man who's suffering. Families of patients are running from pillar to post.
मेरा पेशेंट 3 दिन से है जो बड़ी परेशानी में है लेकिन सुन के राजी नहीं है।
From Delhi,
every day they say that they give us hope that the medicine will come by the evening. We are staying here without food. There is no social distancing whatsoever we can follow here because you can see what the condition is here.
to Lucknow.
मेरा पेशेंट 3 दिन से एडमिट है कंट्रोल रूम पे। मैंने 3 दिन पहले से इलाज कराया हुआ है और नहीं कोई जवाब मिलता है। फिर जब हमने प्राइवेट कहीं से गैस की उसका मास्क लगवाया तो अब हम पूरी जगह मुरारी गैस कल हम गए 3 घंटे वहाँ खड़े रहे, उन्होंने कहा सिंगल सिलेंडर नहीं देंगे।
to Mumbai.
As we see, there's been a constant increase in the demand for oxygen all across the country. In Maharashtra as well, which is the worst affected because of COVID, we've seen that there have been more than 500 deaths in a single day.
To Hyderabad.
अभी मैडम अभी तो कुछ भी नहीं है, अभी रिप्लाई अपने सो देंगे बोले, मगर कि अभी तो ऑक्सीजन खत्म हो गया बोले उन लोग, तो इसके से हम लोग ज़रा वेट कर रहे हैं सो यहाँ पे.
And this video from Damo in Madhya Pradesh shows the helplessness of the citizens and their anger against the political class.
भाग रही है और रात के बोल दिया 36 घंटा हो चुका है, एक मिनट अगर सिलेंडर मिलेगा लेकिन सिलेंडर नहीं मिला. हम बोलेंगे
ऐसा बोलेगा तो दो खाएगा,
हम खाएंगे भी, हमारी माता राम तो वैसे ही खाने को पड़ी है. बताओ क्या करना.
तो सीख रखो,
नहीं
कोई मना कर रहा है तुमको?
मना किया है सर, 5 मिनट चला सर, 5 मिनट चला सर सिलेंडर. बोलो 36 घंटे से परेशान, 5 मिनट सिलेंडर चला, या तो फिर मना कर देंगे.
The situation is grave. Medical infrastructure is burdened. Prime Minister has stepped in. He has chaired a high-level meeting and will continue to drive efforts in a bid to ensure that oxygen reaches every person who needs it. Even the courts have taken cognizance of the unprecedented crisis that has hit the country.
3-page order has now come out from the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court has said by tomorrow, when the hearing is going to take place, the court will also have to be putting before them a national plan for dealing with the above services and supplies during pandemic.
But in this battle, every second counts. A delay by even a minute could cost a precious life. And only a national and uniform plan will help in this COVID war. Let's debate.
Tonight by Dr. Sambit Patra, Dr. Samir Kaul. Sambit Patra, National Spokesperson of the BJP. Samir Kaul, Chief Cancer Specialist at Apollo Hospital. He's joining us from Srinagar. Mohandas Pai, Chairman of Aaron Capital. We're joined by Dr. Ambrish Mittal, Chairman and Head of Endocrinology at Max Healthcare. Atishi is the national spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. I'm first also joined by Dr. Sangeeta Reddy, who's the Joint Managing Director of Apollo. Dr. Sangeeta Reddy, please tell me, today you put out a tweet saying certain oxygen tankers were being held back, were not being allowed to move. It was retweeted many times. What forced you to go public?
So Arnab, in my 38 years of working in the healthcare sector, I have never had to do anything like this before. But basically the size of the crisis and the fact that 300, 400 patients are depending on us. And we need to, when they come to us with faith and trust, we have to be able to deliver for them. But beyond Apollo, I knew that finally Apollo will get oxygen, but I also knew that hundreds of other hospitals. But the main point I want to convey is that actually India does not have a shortage in terms of the production capacity of oxygen. The shortage is in the cylinders as well as in the vans to move them. This is a very important aspect. And therefore, what I wanted was for all the trucks which are transporting oxygen to be treated like ambulances and given free access, because they're being held up at borders. Administrators are making calls to INOX in the middle of the night saying, where is my oxygen? Everybody is feeling that pressure. I felt that if the system could come together...
Is this an artificial scarcity then being created?
I don't think it's an artificial scarcity. What has happened, Arnab, is that in the last crisis that we had, the requirement of oxygen from the approximately 2,000 to 3,000 tons per day actually doubled. But in this crisis, in this second wave, this requirement of oxygen has actually gone up fourfold, and it's upward of 7,000.
Why didn't we anticipate that? Why didn't we anticipate that?
So this is a fantastic question, but the basic fact is that the surge which has happened now, the rate moving up to 300,000 new cases per day, this kind of peaking happened in the US over a period of 60 days. In India, it's happened over 14 days. This kind of peaking is unprecedented anywhere in the world. So now what we need to do is really focus on optimizing the transportation of oxygen by getting the best out of our cylinders as well as our containers. Also,
but did we get caught off guard then?
So Arnab, if people are crying for want of oxygen, if hospitals have only 2 hours of supply, then this is definitely a national crisis. But I must say that the FICCI president reached out to the Home Minister.
That's all. That's an individual case. I'm saying it is quite clear to me that this crisis was waiting to happen, and that somewhere we all felt that the worst of COVID was behind us.
So that was
we thought that we had gotten away.
January, February, that was truly the case. Everybody went off guard. And the fact is the worst variant of the virus is non-appropriate COVID behavior. That variation is what has caught us more than anything. And this is across the country. So it's important for us now to get seriously back into COVID-appropriate behavior.
Sure.
Be very serious about masks. Ramp up and work together towards this really difficult situation.
Yes.
We are committed. We are enhancing beds. We are doing whatever we can. We're moving staff, nurses, non-nursing people to help nurses. But we must take bold steps. Whether it is in waiving off the nurses, there are 60,000 nurses waiting to take their final exam. Maybe we can find a way to waive that final exam, give them their certification subject to an exam somewhere in the next 12 months. Let us take bold steps and enhance the public health system and the tertiary health system.
Sangeeta, we had 1 year to do that. And I began my program tonight by saying that success has many fathers and failure is none. And in order to move ahead, we must truly first start by acknowledging that we as a country have failed to anticipate the scale of a second wave. It is only when we accept our failure will we move ahead. But thanks for highlighting these issues right on top of the program, Sangeeta.
There is no doubt about that, Arnab. But right now, what I'm saying that in parallel, that let us accept the crisis and start solving the crisis. That's where I'm coming from on this.
I'm with you on that. Thank you, Sangeeta.
Thank you. And I must say that, when we speak out, people are listening. So I thank the government and I want everybody to work together to solve this problem.
Yeah.
And we are committed to give our very best to our patients.
Yeah.
Please enable us to do so.
That's so true. But then that's the most important thing, isn't it, Mohandas Pai, that we must now start speaking up. There's no need to say what politicians would love to hear.
Arnab, it is very evident that there is a failure of the system at the center and at the states. The fact that there is a shortage of oxygen in all the hospitals is a failure of the system. Government has taken action. It could have taken action maybe 10 days before. And I think we have a problem about distribution. We don't have a problem of production, like Sangeeta said. Production is going up. Distribution capacity is not there. We don't have the tanks. We don't have the vehicles. And to top of all, the stupid political fight between the states, between various states holding up is hurting people. People are dying on the streets. And this farmer anarchist agitation in Delhi is holding up supplies to Delhi. So we are in a perfect crisis. And I think government has taken the step of making sure under the Disaster Management Act, there is freedom to move. Like Sangeeta said, we must give these oxygen tankers the same right as ambulances, and you must have escort services to go everywhere else. We must set up a crisis management group where everybody can dial in and get that oxygen every hour and every 2 hours. You must have information. And I think the government at the center and state should accept responsibility for this failure and work on a measure to make sure it doesn't happen again. Now, we can't go back and...
Nobody's taking responsibility.
Yes.
Nobody's taking responsibility more. They're passing the buck, they're finger pointing at each other. They're fighting over who stole oxygen from which tanker. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely. Arnab, Arnab, in many countries, they had models which could predict what will happen. Today, Dr. Manindra Agarwal from IIT Kanpur is, tweeting and producing models to say when it will peak, what will happen. Based on the model, the central group and the state group should have anticipated oxygen is going to be a problem, this is going to be a problem, etc., and made sure that we
That's the issue.
Action.
That's the issue. They did not anticipate. No, because they don't think scientifically. Because they don't think scientifically, and we've left it to all the bureaucrats. And I'm sorry, but there isn't enough domain experience there. This is a calamity that was waiting to happen. There is domain expertise, but maybe not everything in government.
We have to model the government. The bureaucracy has to come up. We have the ICMR. We spend a lot of money. We have the doctors. They must model it because they are in charge of policy.
Arnab,
the hospitals in this country should not be held accountable if somebody passes away. What we fear could be violence in the hospital. Somebody passes away because of lack of oxygen. The hospitals cannot be at fault. So I think we have to be very careful, manage it on an hour-to-hour basis, inform people and give them confidence. People must not panic.
Okay, simple question here. Sambit, tell me, Sambit. It's an open debate. Everybody can come in. Let's speak with each other, not above each other. Sambit, we have the capacity to produce more than 7,000 metric tons of medical oxygen. So we have enough oxygen manufacturing capacity. The problem, as I understand, is that of transportation. Now the tragedy is we send people, on the most dramatic assignments. We have great ambitions. We want to take credit, but for God's sake, Sambit, we don't have enough tankers. We don't have enough cryogenic tankers to ensure road transport of oxygen. We have the oxygen, but we have not planned for its transportation. It's outrageous. You keep saying we've done this and we've done that, but then that oxygen, after being manufactured, has to reach a patient's bed. You have not ensure that happens. Now you can turn around both Congress and Aam Aadmi Party or BJP and say, listen, this is a unique situation. Of course it's a unique situation. It is the job of politicians and those in power to prepare for unique situations. Why have you left the situation in the country in such a situation where we don't have enough tankers to transport the oxygen?
See, Arnab, a pertinent question, and I firmly believe that though we may be politicians, I, Atashi and others may be politicians over here in the panel, but despite that, people least would be concerned with our tutu meme. So in fact, today the Prime Minister, when he chaired the high-level meeting, he in fact came out with certain figures, which I would like to share with you and the panel as well, and with the viewers of your Republic channel. Number one, the demand as of today of 20 states, most of the 20 states, the demand of oxygen is 6,785 metric ton, of which on 21st and 22nd of April, that is yesterday and today, the government of India has supplied 6,822 metric tons. That means 37 metric ton is an excess supply. So you're absolutely right, supply is not a problem. How the supply reaches the hospital, the end product is what is the problem. The transportation is the problem. Now to solve that,
so why have we not? No. Watch it. That is the problem. But then you please tell me, and don't move on quickly from there. Sambit, you sort of want to move across a very major issue, almost as if it was just a wrinkle. That's not the fact. Please tell me. There is something called forward planning. We have enough oxygen. We can't transport it now. Therefore, there is a delay in the oxygen supply too. And can you imagine the delay in remote areas? Can you imagine the delay in rural areas? Why didn't you think of this so far?
Let me answer that.
And Delhi also, let me tell you. Delhi's problem is, Atishi, that you depend on oxygen to be coming in from neighboring states. Why hasn't Delhi built its own extensive oxygen manufacturing plants? So, you are all one. The Delhi government is dependent on other states. As far as the BJP, as far as the center is concerned, it is not planned for transport. And now you're going to point fingers at each other. Yeah, sure you can. But, I just want you to acknowledge that you're both to blame in a way, both as in not individually, but as an example of center and state.
No, of course, Mr. Goswami, but I'll just keep a few points. You're absolutely right. We all have to, in fact, are to be held accountable. I want to show you this letter. This letter, in fact, was issued by the Home Ministry today, and they have come out with stringent plans as to how this transportation can take place. And what they have come out with is tagging of each one of these cryo tankers, each one of these tankers, because only by tagging and to seeing to it that they are protected till they reach the hospital, the destination that they're supposed to reach. Number two, even airlifting of these tankers would take place in Naveen Patnaik ji. In fact, Odisha is the allotted state to Delhi as far as oxygen is concerned. So in fact, tonight I believe that airlifting of oxygen from Odisha is going to take place. Green corridors have been built by the Indian Railways, and we have Indian Railways transporting cryogenic tanks, etc., from one place to another. The first
That's what you are doing now. Do you admit, Sambit, 1 minute.
Yeah.
Do you admit, and let me not ask you, let me ask Atishi and you both equally. Do we admit that we somewhere failed to anticipate and prepare for this kind of a second wave?
Now, let me show you these letters, in fact, in this...
do we admit that?
Yes, we have to admit. Is there any way out? The kind of scenes that we are seeing outside of the hospital, the kind of despair that...
Thank you for saying that. Okay. That's the first time anyone's actually admitted.
No, we have to. People would not like otherwise. We are the representatives of people. And if you do not admit, if you are not accountable, if you don't answer their question, will the people take it in a good mood? Of course not. So by admitting and by, in fact, giving them confidence-building measures, can we only take them into confidence? I'm showing you certain letters. These are, in fact, 10 letters that I carry with me. The first letter is of January 7th. Since we don't have cameras over here, I have only a Skype connection.
What?
7th of January.
What's the main point?
7th of January, the letter was to Maharashtra. The letter was to Delhi. That here, please, we are expecting a second wave. Please be prepared. Ramp up your infrastructure. I'm not blaming the Delhi government. And remember, 4 days ago, Arvind Kejriwal holds a press conference saying that all is well. We don't have any oxygen want. Remdesivir is in ample supply. No drug is required. Well, yes, I can well understand. Even he did not anticipate that 2 days from that fateful press conference of his, which was held 4 days back, there would be supply of oxygen which would be in dearth. I mean to say that, well, yes, we all are to be held accountable. So for God's sake, let's not have tutu meme by saying that it is a center.
But the tutu meme is going on.
Saying that it's
the tutu meme is going on. And in fact, today, I think it was very unfortunate, where we saw that the Delhi government is now accusing the UP government of stopping the supply of oxygen. And on Haryana, yesterday, the Delhi government gets accused by the Haryana government, Atishi, of stealing oxygen from a tanker. Like children, the politicians are fighting. You stole my oxygen. You took away my oxygen. All of this is happening while private hospitals have no option but to tweet. And even serious COVID patients are not being admitted. And even those who might need life support are being sent back because there's no oxygen. Now, you need to work together. And right here on this program, Atishi, I must ask both you and Sambit, responsible spokespersons of two major parties, to please show that sense of camaraderie, assure people. Gangaram Hospital is just saying we are running short of oxygen supplies. It's an SOS. There's no time to debate anymore. Stop the oxygen politics. Tell me what you're going to do.
Arnab, I think 2-3 points that I would like to make. Number one, when you ask this question, were we prepared for this second wave? I think that no one is going to say that we were prepared. No one is prepared for the extent of cases that have happened. And not just the politicians. I think even a lot of the medical fraternity, scientists, statisticians, no one had been able to predict that in the second wave, cases would go up to 3 to 4 times as much as we have ever had so far. Even at the peak of cases in September, which was the third wave for Delhi, we went up to about 8,000 cases. And Delhi was prepared in terms of hospital infrastructure, in terms of oxygen supply, for those many number of cases. Number one. So
Why so? Sorry, I need to interrupt with a small counter. Small counter, Atishi, to you. Small counter. Question is, A, why so? B, yes, numbers had gone down to a few thousand. But everywhere there's medical literature available, warnings, global examples that the numbers do go up dramatically. There was available literature. There were scientific warnings that there are mutants which happen. No. Did we see, Atishi? We didn't prepare.
There was literature which said there was definitely literature that a second wave may happen, and I am sure other state governments, the central government, and I definitely know that the Delhi government was prepared to take on a second wave. We were not prepared or anticipating 25,000 cases per day. And as Sangeeta Reddy very
now tell me,
pointed out, that this kind of let me finish Arnab first. This kind of increase in cases happened in the United States over 60 days. It has happened in India over 14 days. Number one. Number two, you asked the question of why does Delhi not have its own oxygen plants over the past 1 year. You are a very senior journalist. You would definitely know the fact that oxygen, medical oxygen, is a centrally regulated commodity. It is something that is regulated. The production and the transportation is regulated by the central government. And Delhi government, which put forward the amount of oxygen that it was required, which was approximately 350 mg per day, we were committed by the central government that this would be provided to us. And therefore, we chose to put in our infrastructure on expanding hospital capabilities, on expanding bed capabilities.
That was a how can one second, Atishi, if you're expanding, I'm sorry. You see, let me. No. But you have to hear a counter. You hear a small counter. Atishi, I'm coming back to you only, but there is a counter right to that point which you made. I am making a counter to the point you made. Otherwise, I'll forget what I had to say. No, I'll forget what I had to say.
Now you're not.
No, I have to.
Answer two of them.
I will let you answer all the questions, but there is a counter to a specific point.
You can counter once I have.
You're not being open to counter questioning.
I am open to counter questions. Let me complete what I have to say. You have been speaking since the beginning of the program.
No, I have a small point. Okay, fine. Complete your point. No, I'm putting questions to all. Please don't say that.
Number three, as I said, that since it's a centrally regulated commodity, its transportation is also centrally regulated. I am not blaming the central government. I do not wish to engage in any politics. I just wish that the central government would take over the role of regulator as they have now done from today morning. Because what we have seen in the last 2 days, where we have had crisis in hospitals in Delhi, because specific providers in Haryana and in Uttar Pradesh refused to send their oxygen supply because they were told by their respective state governments not to do so. You have Anil Vij who comes on television and says, मैंने अपने अफसर भेज दिए हैं सारे प्लांट्स पर और मैंने उन्हें बोला है कि पहले हरियाणा की सप्लाई पूरी होगी तब तक कहीं और नहीं भेजा जाएगा. You have the Inox plant that is taken over by the UP police. Now this is not the way any government can operate. And I'm very glad that today the central government has come forward, has started coordinating, has started regulating between states, because that is only something that the central government can do.
You see now, thank you, Atishi. You have made an extremely long intervention and you have not allowed me to come in at the point where I could have countered you stronger, but I still will. Fact is that you have said that we prepared the hospital infrastructure. I am not a doctor, but ask anyone, they'll tell you a large hospital infrastructure without abundant availability of high flow oxygen is like creating a zoo with no animals. So I don't understand why you have failed to anticipate it, and maybe there's been a mistake in planning on either side. Secondly, the central government is overall responsible for production and transportation.
The central government committed a certain oxygen quota to the Delhi government. So do we replicate resources? Should we have replicated resources?
We are fulfilling our commitment. Rather, we have increased the quota of the commitment towards Delhi. We are ready to pay you 480. We are ready to give you 480 MTs per day.
We welcome that, Samvirji. I am not denying that. I am just saying that I am glad that not only has the central government increased the quota, I am glad that from today they have started regulating the transport. What happened?
It's good that you are glad, but remember, Atashi ji, only 4 days ago, Arnab Kejriwal said that we have no dearth of oxygen, we have no dearth of drugs. Only 4 days ago he said that. And immediately the next day he said that there's dearth of oxygen, and we in fact, we gave you the quota that was required. We responded by giving you the quota required.
Yesterday, not even 180 metric tons reached Delhi when the older quota was also 355 metric tons. But yesterday we did not even get 180 metric tons, let alone the new quota of 580 metric tons that the central government had committed. Therefore, I don't want to argue with you, Sundar-ji. All I am saying is that we need to work together, but the central government needs to play the role of the older.
I think, now Atishi, I want to go to Dr. Samir Kaul and Dr. Ambrish Mittal also.
If you don't,
no, Samir.
You call. Damn if you do, damn if you don't. If we play the role of the older brother, then we say that then the charge on us is we are being too controlled. We are trying to control everything. Remember, last time we had put on the lockdown, and we had Rahul Gandhi and Arvind Kejriwal, in fact, complaining about the lockdown. They call this lockdown Tughlaki lockdown. And today, both of them, in fact, are in support of lockdown. Mr. Kejriwal has come out for lockdown. And in fact, Congress party has also come out for lockdown in Maharashtra. No, you said that lockdown was Tughlaki. In fact, both Congress party as well as the Aam Aadmi party did not stand in support for the lockdown last time. And this time, when you have to do that, you want the elder brothers' support from the central government.
As far as the COVID policies are concerned. We, in fact, if you remember last year, even before the central government, the Delhi government 2 days before that had announced
Atashi, it is quite easy to say so. Remember, when last time the migrant labours started
looking
moving,
forward.
there was a whole lot of
going forward, and I put my questions in the middle.
This time, we did not carry on with any.
Okay, my point. Thank you, Gagan. Okay. So now listen. I mean, this is not going to take us anywhere. My question is, I am looking forward, Samir, Dr. Samir Kaul. Politicians will not accept it, but everyone says we had a failure in anticipating the demand of oxygen, and the demand of oxygen had gone up to 2,800 metric tons per day, MTDT. And this time it's already 5,000 metric tons per day and more. My question is, everybody says it's going to get worse before it gets better. So, if the cases, God forbid, already at 3,15,000 per day, say they go to 4 lakh, or they go to 5 lakh, Dr. Samir Kaul, what will happen to our creaking, collapsing infrastructure then?
You've asked me a very specific question, and thank you for having me on the program after a long time, Arnab. And I wish that it was under slightly better circumstances than we are in at the moment. But thank you anyways. But, you know, I just want to tell you one thing. Today we are just discussing about the lack of oxygen supply. But what I want to really tell you today is that I'm really sad. I'm sad because I'm also responsible as a citizen of modern India, which is looking up and wanting to rise up and already feeling that it has risen up. I realize today that every component, be it me as a healthcare giver, healthcare professional, be it a politician as a leader of this country, be it the executive, policy planners, be it people who were responsible for logistics, be it you, the media, the intervening 1 year, how can you also escape the responsibility of not highlighting the need to rise up to the occasion and to do all these things and urge people and planners and this country to do what they needed to do in this intervening 1 year, with this golden 1 year period. We're not even talking about a golden 1 hour. We're talking about this 1 year period where all this was happening and building up, and we never chose to listen to advice. Advice may have been feeble, but it kept coming, but we never have enough mind space for looking at things holistically. So every aspect, the judiciary, why should I let them go? Were they not responsible did they not have a commitment to the people of this country? To highlight these issues and urge and push people. If they can do it for all other things, couldn't they have? Isn't health and lives of people important? Look at how people are dying like 9 pins and how we are responding to it in the middle of this crisis. I really, even as a healthcare professional, I feel ashamed. I think each one of us each one of us, the people of this country, did they not think that, getting into rallies and into religious congregations was less important than paying attention to what needed to be done for the health of this country and of its people, to make sure that we had enough of infrastructure, enough of logistics, had the right planning, had good center-state relationships, my friend? Today we may want to fend off and point fingers at each other, but sorry to say and use the word, we have a center-state relationship in this country. All of us, if you want to know the reasons, we actually the entire fight against COVID. Sorry to use that word, because I feel so sad. We owe it to the people of this country. We have really made a mess of this, and all of us together. We have not evolved mentally as people who can do things the right way. No SOPs, no protocols, no need to set things right, no realization, fallen characters, and we have messed up in every which way possible. And if I were to enumerate them, the blunders committed, you would run out of time space in this program, Arnab, and you would need to do many more. And I'm again pointing that you, the media, are also responsible. You never consider health as important as the reporting about politics and all other gossips in this country. I wish you also understood the need to highlight these issues so that it could get into people's mind space. It's not in our mind space, my friend. We don't think of health as something that needs to be top of the line. Maybe even after this, I'm telling you, even after hopefully we get out of this whole thing, it will still relegate back to, because that's how we are as a people. We haven't evolved mentally at all. We have made mistakes at every step. We did not anticipate. We had no logistics. It's not about tankers and all. Everywhere we made a mistake. We kept the private health out of the government health. We held on to our... No. Let me complete. This is culpable homicide. Let me talk about it.
Samir, you have talked. Let's not sound as if all is lost. Please, for God's sake, people are already in problem.
Hauled up and
let's not sound as if Indians are good for nothing. Please.
We made a mess of it.
We have already owned up. We are discussing about all that. But let's not say that we have lost the battle. Let's not say that we are not going to win this battle. Let's not say that we have lost everything. Well, yes, we may be beaten, but we may be battered, but we have not lost it. Remember, I am a doctor. I remember that. I know that. But for God's sake, no, just a sake, sir. Please, let's not say that we are going to lose all our patients. As a doctor, you have no right to say that you are going to lose all your patients. 85% of your patients are going to be cured. For God's sake, don't say all your patients are going to die. For God's sake, don't say that there's no hope in this country left. For God's sake, let's not say that all the patients are going to be lost. No, this needs to... You said that this country has lost it. You said that nothing good is going to happen. Remember...
And have the moral courage to say that...
Just a second, sir. You are also a politician. You are also a politician, sir. Well, yes, we all politicians have to answer. But to say that we have lost the battle is something which we should not. We have not lost the battle. Well, yes, it may be a difficult battle, but I assure you we have to win this battle. And thankfully, our corona warriors...
Somewhere,
governments are working.
Somewhere, I want to tell you something candidly today. That heads must roll, because someone's not planned. And my friend Samir Kaul says that the media is also responsible. Yes, it is. We are not domain experts in oxygen production and distribution. But yes, if you say that the media is also responsible, yes, we are. We're doing our bit. However, I'm proud of all our teams, media across the country reporting on the ground. But you see Sambit and Atishi, and I want to put this, we live from crisis to crisis as a country. Once we finish a crisis, we don't have a logbook or a blue book where we understand what have we learned and we improve in the future. We don't set up processes, Dr. Ambarish Mittal, to ensure we don't go through it again. The moment we complete a crisis, we go on to the next. And we say, we dekha jayega baad mein. I think that is the real issue out here. Secondly, Atishi said, Dr. Ambrish, that you know this, and Sangeeta Reddy also said, America took 60 days to reach a 3 lakh situation. We reached 15 days. Did we, however, Dr. Mittal, think that if we had reached an America-like situation with a greater concentration of our population, how would we deal with it? We never thought we would reach that situation. That's the tragedy.
Absolutely.
We never thought.
And yeah, I think the important point here is, I'm not going to make any speech here, but there are a few key points. Number one is that we did not handle the first wave as badly as it is being made out. I think we did handle Corona fairly okay, given our state of our overall health infrastructure, and the doctors who know that. I have worked in rural parts of UP, and I know the state of our infrastructure. Yes. So we scaled up many things. We did many things wrong, but we did. From one lab doing RT-PCR, there are 2,500 labs doing RT-PCR. From there's so many examples. No PPEs to exporting PPEs. So giving you an example of how things move, but yet, of course, we made a lot of mistakes. It's a very difficult disease to tackle, and a lot of mistakes were made. But the major mistake was to disassemble everything after the first wave or the first large wave subsided. And I think we sort of thought that we were gloating over it. It's like before hitting the final run, you start celebrating. And the match is not won till the last ball is bowled. And we completely forgot what clearly scientists in our own country were telling us. And the correct scientists to tell us are epidemiologists. And the epidemiologists were consistently telling us there's going to be a big second wave. How big? That is the question. It was probably fueled by our own lack of observance of corona-appropriate behavior that we ended up in such a large second wave. But it is true, Arnab, that the magnitude and the speed of the wave took most people by surprise. There is no doubt about that. Although the wave we should have been much, much better prepared. The issue here is, for example, in a hospital, there are less than 20% patients on oxygen usually. At the moment, in large hospitals like Sameer's and ours where I work, more than 50% patients require oxygen in a hospital. And most of them require high flow oxygen. So the demand has gone up tremendously. And I don't think, very rightly put by you, that I don't think that our systems were in place at all to ensure that kind of supply. Then people have slipped up, and our leaders are admitting to that people did not anticipate this. The problem is I think of India as one country, right? Now, I think the most ridiculous thing for me is that one state is stopping this supply, this state is doing. That is so sad as a doctor. When you see
but why is this
oxygen?
No, but Dr. Mittal, that's the point. There is a parochial attitude by states and a selfish attitude towards supplying oxygen. That needs to go. We cannot, I feel one of the issues here is excessive federalism. We cannot function with artificial obstacles being created because some states are hesitant to let go of excess supply in their states to states that don't even have an oxygen manufacturing plant. And should Covishield stop being distributed by this logic because the Serum Institute produces it in Pune? Should those states where indigenous Bharat Biotech BSL-3 high containment facilities not have access to the vaccine? Should those states where remdesivir and PPE kits are not produced be denied medical equipment by states that have access? I think there has been excessive parochialism shown by states. And that is wrong. And the way Delhi and Haryana are bickering over oxygen is shameful.
Just to put it in perspective, these large cities, the metros, the Delhi, Bombay, etc., they don't treat people from their own state. We treat people from everywhere, from outside India also. So we're not used to thinking like that. It's quite crazy that oxygen is available. It is difficult to transport, yes, but even then we are fighting. The states are fighting. I won't let this go.
No. Instead of finding a solution, the problem is, Atishi, that state governments, the moment they realize that there is a problem, all that they do is tweet. You immediately tweet, pass it on to the center, and rub your hands in glee. This has to stop. There are state governments which are saying, we tried to call the Prime Minister could not come on the phone because he's busy with the poll campaign. The Haryana Health Minister says the Delhi government looted the cylinder. Rajasthan government is accusing the center. Telangana government is blaming the center. I think all these state governments have found a very useful solution to everything. Just blame the center. What did you do so far? What did you do for the last 14 days? Why did you say 4 days back we have enough oxygen? Now that you realize that you don't, you quickly want to say that, you sort of anticipated the problem and the center didn't step in. The least you should do, Atishi, is acknowledge that you too have been taken by surprise instead of passing a note to Sambit Patra on the program.
Arnab, first of all,
yes, Atishi.
It is very clear, Arnab, no one has ever said that we anticipated the scale of the crisis. We did not. And as I said, I don't think the state government anticipated. I don't think the central government anticipated. I don't even think the medical and scientific community also anticipated the magnitude and speed with which the cases have risen in the second wave. Number one. Number two, let me be very clear. We have been working with the central government, talking with the central government when we realized that the oxygen supply needs to increase. We reached out immediately to Mr. Piyush Goyal with the details of the increase in oxygen supply we needed. Number three, when yesterday this crisis arose because of the Haryana government, we reached out to the Prime Minister's office also. Many of our senior health officials from the Delhi government were in constant touch with the health officials of the central government, and it is because of the collaboration of the Delhi government and the central government that finally the crisis was averted in St. Stephen's Hospital yesterday afternoon. The trucks were coming. Dr. Saneer Kaul is from Apollo Hospital. He would also know the fact how till late night last night there was a crisis situation in that hospital. But it is finally because there was coordination between the central government and Delhi government were the supplies finally able to come in from the Faridabad wind plant where they had been stopped and sealed by the Haryana government. And as I said right at the beginning of the program, I am very glad that the central government from today morning has taken on the role of coordination and of regulating where the oxygen is going to go, how it's going to go, have GPS tracking on every cryogenic truck,
not today.
Reallocating the supplies.
Not today. The center, sorry, factual mistake. 1 minute. Not today. The center, see Atishi, you must give credit where it is due, even if it doesn't work to your political advantage. The center is trying to deliver against present demand from 20 states. You are not the only state. 20 states, 6,785. See, 1 minute, let me complete. You see, it is easy for you to take a case of one tanker, fight furiously with the Haryana government, make that a case in point. It is more difficult to supply on a demand of 6,785 metric tons per day of liquid medical oxygen. Yesterday, from April 21st, allocating 6,822 metric tons per day to these states. What I'm trying to say, it is easier to criticize, more difficult to deliver. And therefore, you too must tell the Vadra Congress, stop only tweeting. I mean, this Robert Vadra kind of people, you should take a stand against it. Stop tweeting. Stop blaming Narendra Modi for everything. So, no, 1 second.
Can I have a quick interjection, please?
Government. Let us be very clear. We only raised a specific point against the Haryana government, which the Haryana Home and Health Minister, Mr.
I've heard what the Aam Aadmi Party had to say. I firmly believe it's my turn also to please make an important interjection over here.
Therefore, we have not blamed the central government. In fact, it is in coordination with the central government that finally Apollo Hospital, Max Hospital, and Manipal Hospital, St. Stephen's Hospital yesterday were able to get their oxygen.
That is so I'm glad you admitted it.
But no state.
I am glad that you admitted it. I am glad that you have, because it shows. I am glad that you have.
State should be allowed to hold.
I am glad that you have. I am saying that the center has a very complicated job to handle. It's an unenviable situation to be sitting on.
Probably you have forgotten.
Some
few seconds of uninterrupted say, please, Arnab, I request you. Arnab, let me just remind you what happened a couple of weeks ago. I believe exactly about 10 days ago. Remember, the Prime Minister, in fact, used to hold continuous meeting as regards to COVID-19. I'll give you an example of two chief ministers, how easy it is to criticize and how difficult it is to really partake in this decision making. Mamata Banerjee used to always say that Modi ji is not working for COVID-19. He could not anticipate. But in the last 3 months, despite numerous meetings by the Prime Minister, Mamata Didi could not attend a single meeting in the last 3 months, citing reasons of campaigning, number one. Please pull out from the archive the pictures of Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, whom I respect a great deal. In the last meeting with the Prime Minister, look at the way, look at the way he was sitting. He was literally going to sleep there. Like this, and then he was yawning, and then he was about to fall off. Then he was talking while the Prime Minister was talking, and you said that he is collaborating, he is cooperating. So you all wanted to project the Prime Minister in the long way, in a very wrong way. And you had not anticipated that this is going to come. You had not anticipated that we are going to have oxygen deficiency. Just a second, ma'am. Just a second. I did not interject you. You had not anticipated then. You wanted to take on the Prime Minister. You wanted to project the Prime Minister in a wrong way. That's why look at the body language of Mr. Arvind Kejriwal in the last meeting with the Prime Minister. He was literally sleeping during the meeting. And you say that you were yawning. Yes, the whole country watched. The whole country watched. Mr. Arvind Kejriwal was non-serious while the Prime Minister was advising him on COVID. Mr. Arvind Kejriwal was being advised on COVID-19 and Mr. Kejriwal was yawning, was sleeping, was talking to others, was not concerned, as far as the relation between different states.
Well, it will not help.
Every cryo transportation has been tagged.
It will not help if you are at each other's throats. It will not help if you are at each other's throats. We are in the middle of a crisis.
What BJP spokesperson is saying that Haryana government
I request you all. I request you all to work together to ensure that every tanker of oxygen, every cylinder reaches the patients at the earliest. There is a crisis situation. List out all the hospitals reporting the SOS and emergencies. Let's deliver the oxygen now. The time to fight will be later. I thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. On the other side, why Rakesh the Cat cannot be allowed to do an iftar party at this time.